Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Milena Agazi Kasai. I'm 10 years old and I wanted to contribute to P2P by sharing my passion for music. I've loved piano and singing ever since I was little. I hope you can contribute by sponsoring a child and helping them have a better tomorrow. My first song is Lean On Me by Bill Withers. Woo!
The youth-led P2P Sound the Horn program has also broken new ground with youth right here in the GTA through empowerment and their community asset mapping program. We will now hear from the co-leader of Sound the Horn. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ruth Belay.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. It's amazing to see everyone in this room today here in celebration of, thank you. Here in celebration of P2P, a community that was formed in service of our communities back home, but also in support of our local communities here in Toronto. This spirit of community and service is a core part of the mission of People to People and the Sound the Horn initiative. As Teddy and many others have said, Sound the Horn is a youth-led organization that was created in response to the need for more youth advocacy, organizing, and education around HIV and AIDS. Through a variety of artistic mediums, Sound the Horn has brought together a generation of youth. P2P has played a core part in championing the role of Sound the Horn. Honoring this legacy, Sound the Horn was restarted around the evolving needs for more mental health, wellness, and support, especially for youth like myself and many others, and for newcomers as well. For over the past 6 years, Sound the Horn has come together to build an amazing team of youth, many of which you have seen outside, who volunteer as part of the organization. We also have part-time dedicated staff that have been a strong asset as we continue to build partnerships to support youth during core transitional periods in their lives. This includes a mentorship program, the community asset mapping that we heard in the videos, but also through hosting community events and sponsoring a variety of other youth-led initiatives. With the support of TYBU, the Network of Advancement of Black Communities, the Government of Canada, Sound the Horn has launched its landmark project, Navigating Transitions program. This program connects youth and mentors to support them in transitional periods. So that means high school to university, university to work, or even being a newcomer in this country and navigating the current challenges of school, work, and just surviving. The pilot program was launched last year, and the kickoff events was hosted in the summer and has continued the conversations of many mentors and mentees. We have a dedicated team who has continued to help build resources and mentorship training opportunities as well. As a mentor and a member of Sound the Horn, I've learned the different ways in which we can support each other and honor the legacy of community and service through mentorship. I've been lucky in my life to have many mentors who have been core to my own journey, and mentorship is a great way that we can contribute to the well-being of our communities. We all have something to share, and we all have something to learn from each other. And with that, I want to say that registration is open for the 2024 mentorship program. Please consider joining, either being a mentee or a mentor. This is an important opportunity for us all. There are flyers throughout the event space that look like this. And we also have our great team members, both Remy, somewhere in the back over there. Hi, Remy. And we also have Blaine somewhere as well. You can just scan the QR code, get more information, and register. Please share with your networks, your friends, your family, and anyone who may be interested. I'm here all evening, and if you have any questions, please let me know. But I encourage you all to consider being a mentor, to consider identifying someone who may be interested in it. Like I said earlier, we all have something to learn, and this is a great program for us to continue supporting ourselves and our communities. So thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Kweku Osu. I work at TYBU Health Center. We're located at 27 Tapscott in Malvern, next to the Malvern Mall. And the reason why we're here today is we're promoting health. In particular, we want to promote our cancer screening. We have cancer screening for older people and for the Black population, because you know it's serious things that need to be talked about. And we just want to be an agent of change and just spread awareness and make sure everyone's getting their screening. My message is, take your health serious. We only have one life, and make sure we're living it to our fullest. And that's it, man. Thank you.
Amino is, as I mentioned earlier, P2P is privileged to have a partner with the Network of the Advancement of Black Community, NAPC, led by the founding executive director, Emmanuel Nobles, who we are honored to have a keynote speaker. And honestly, I'm really excited for you guys, because I have the pleasure to be mentored by him on a regular basis. Emmanuel is the founding executive director, not only for NAPC, but he's the principal of Ammon Consulting. He has over 30 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, in settlement, immigration, community health, social services, and community development. His expertise and influence of development sector spans provincially, nationally, and internationally. Amano led initiatives at the United Way Toronto and established the Creative Institute of Toronto Young Leaders City. And he's represented Canada internationally, including recently at the UN Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. He brings ecosystem thinking to his work and is currently advancing thought leadership in Afrocentric system transformation and collaborative leadership. He's a recipient of the Jane Jacob Prize, the New Pioneer Award, the African Canadian Leadership Award, and many other accolades. We're honored to have Emmanuel Mendes share his insight today with us. He's a true inspiration, a true gem in our community, who is a humanitarian with global impact. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our keynote speaker, Emmanuel Mendes.
Thank you, my sister. I'm really honored to be here this evening, Bonet, beyond words, because listening to the stories of the young people that has been transformed in terms of their lives, but also looking at the volunteer leadership in the room and following this organization for so many years, sometimes close, sometimes from distance. I'm in awe. I talk about in the work that we do in Canada of system transformation. After so many years of trying to really see change, really change in our communities, we have started to ask the difficult but necessary questions about the state of being of our communities, including the Ethiopian community and writ large, the African Canadian or Black community here in this country. Happy Black History Month. You know, I'm really honored to be here. Acknowledging our elders in the room, acknowledging our elders that are not with us, but recognizing the difficult experience of people of African descent, who many have been brought to this country against their will. But also, I stand here honoring, as a settler, this land, the indigenous people, the Métis, and the Inuit, who for time immemorial have taken care of Turtle Island and North America as we know it. It's very important for me to pause and recognize that indeed we are, stewards of the land. We are treaty people. Yes, the treaties have been signed with the Crown, but as inhabitants, as proud Canadians, we also have the obligation to really understand our relationship and our commitment to the land and to the people. So I honor that aspect of this work. In 1985, I was in a bus with a group of soccer players or football players from Asmara University. We were on our way to Gondar to play against what used to be at that time the Gondar Medical College. We also played at that time on Gondar Kflahagar soccer team. On our way from Bahardar to Gondar, we made stopovers in the different villages, and I was struck by the naming of the villages. I remember Senit, Maxinit, Robit, Warata, Adizaban. And the last stop before we reached Gondar, the city, was a small village by the name of Emfrans. That name really stuck for the rest of my life because for some reason, the name itself and the place by the northeast mountains part of Lake Tana just remained in my mind for many years. Fast forward many months and years here in Canada, my family had the really fortunate opportunity to know an Ethiopian family led by Dr. Kibrayo. Dr. Kibrayo is not with us, but he was an amazing team lead at the University of Toronto in the robotics lab. The reason I am reminded of Dr. Kibrayo, he was passionate about Zera Yacob. For those of you who are not aware about Zera Yacob was one eminent Ethiopian philosopher. Zera Yacob, I knew about Zera Yacob a lot from talking to Dr. Kibrayo. Zara Yacob was born near Aksum in 1599, and he died in Enfraz near Gondar in 1692, almost 424 years ago. When I start to ponder a lot about Zara Yacob was someone who theologically gave us an inkling of a different thinking and inquiry, what he wrote in when he was about 68 years old, what's called the Hatata, or the Inquiry. I bring this because during the same time, another philosopher in France, in Europe, by the name of René Descartes, was also thinking and writing about similar things in terms of inquiry. Someone who wrote a lot about Zara Yacob is the Canadian professor of philosophy at Tvberhan University, Claude Sumner, who was a Canadian who passed away in 2012 in Montreal. And Claude Sumner goes to a level of detail to invite us to know about Zara Yacob. Zara Yacob left Aksum, literally fled for his life, when King Susenyos converted to Catholicism. And Zara Yacob lived for almost 2 years in a cave by the Tekeze Valley, long before he made his way to France. He lived the rest of his life in France. But in those 2 years, he has been able to really think deep about many things, about the relationship of man with God, about harmony, about critical thinking. And when you look at some of the work that René Descartes has contributed to the body of knowledge and practice that we have, we might not pay attention too much, but Zara Yacob was equally important and influential. When King Susenyos died, Zara Yacob left the cave and made his way to France. Little that I know, passing through France when I was a young guy playing soccer for university, there was a lot of story embedded in that small town near Gondar. France is about 60 kilometers from Gondar, about 114 kilometers from Bahardar, and exactly 590 kilometers from Asmara in Eritrea, where I was born. We would not know about Zara Yacob if it was not for Walde Daoud. Walde Daoud was a disciple of Zara Yacob, and Zara Yacob started to write about his treatise when he was only 68 years old. He died about 93. So Walde Daoud was the one that actually encouraged and pushed Zara Yacob to write his treatise. So in a way, when I think about the relationship between Zara Yacob and his mentee, Walde Daoud, I'm reminded about the importance of relationships. In the work that we do, many of you do, Liban and I do, across this land. It's a work that we do by asking the necessary but difficult questions. A lot of the work that we do for people of African descent in this country remind us that in any socioeconomic indicator that we have, whether it's housing, health, mental health, income security, whatever socioeconomic indicator you pick, our people, the people of African descent, are on the periphery of this country. They have been for a long time. Long before Canada was created, our brothers and sisters in Nova Scotia, the Afro-Nova Scotians, made home to this country more than 400 years ago. So when you think about the change that we need to make, we need to be able to really think beyond the waterline. A lot of our programs and services, essentially and needed as they are scratching the tip of the iceberg. So when many of us sit at the policy funding table, government table, without watering down the challenge that we face, without shying away, we must have the courage to really raise difficult questions. How can we do that if we cannot raise those difficult questions with ourselves? So it's very important that as leaders, as organizations, as communities, we really think about the type of work that needs to be done to bring real change. Imagine in this room 20, 40, 30 years from now. There will be a totally different crowd. There will be someone else speaking here. Imagine going back 20, 30 years ago. We must change the nature of our discourse. We can't afford having the same difficult discussions about the predicament of black communities in this country, including ours. We are not courageous enough to think that we must think for the coming generations in the work and thinking that we're doing. Our brothers and sisters in the indigenous communities, they think and plan for 7 generations. Let's think and plan for at least 1 or 2 generations in terms of looking at the work that we need to pay attention to. So when I look at the work that P2P does, between the number 2 and the 2 letters P, there is that interface, that energy that brings people together. So when our leaders sit to really think about solutions for our communities, those relationships that we have among ourselves, we have with governments, with philanthropy, with faith leaders, with business, are the beginning of change. A lot of our conversations and relationships at the moment, brothers and sisters, are transactional. Are transactional in the sense that a lot of work that we're doing, we're counting the nib beans, it's important. We're reporting about the work, but we're not asking why the bottom line is not changing for our communities. So we must move from transactional, transformational leadership. We must move from heroic models of leadership, where people like individuals like myself and others, instead of holding the space and cultivating the space for others, put ourselves at the front. The nature of our challenges are systemic. They are generational. They cannot be solved by a heroic leader, by an organization, by a government. We need to really rally around the table all stakeholders. So the work that P2P has been doing, for example, in terms of the partners that Mimi was mentioning, the volunteers, all the people that put their fingers into the table, so to speak, or the picture, are important. Those for me are a manifestation of what I call system leadership. We cannot change a system by deploying individual and organizational leadership alone. After 30 years of doing this work, I have come to the realization that no government, no organization, no heroic leader is going to deliver results for our communities. We can only bring those type of changes if we indeed have the courage to have difficult and necessary conversations. People like me and others in my generation, they need to seriously think about how they can step back and play a different role for the change that we'd like to see. Among ourselves, like Teddy and many, we have so many amazing young leaders. They must be enabled to lead. Not the next generation of leaders. They are here in the room. They are here in our communities. We must pave the way for them to lead. From an intergenerational lens, it's very important for us to be able to think about how, as elders, as leaders, we can play a different role. So when we talk about the container Canada, you know, one of the things that Liban and I talk often, and we have been together in Ottawa meeting with leaders, including yesterday with the Minister of Health, is that we need to break this insularity, this isolation that we have in our communities. We are Canadians. You know, there is so much happening, not because of COVID and recovery and George Floyd. There is the opportunity for us to really, through the International Decade of People of African Descent, where the federal government and others are responding by investing dollars in communities, to be part of that story. I listen to the mentoring programs here. I listen to all the leadership that happen, and I ask myself, we need to do more to connect the dots. We need to be able to be more than visitors to this country. We are Canadians. We need to occupy the space. You know, from Toronto at Queen's Park to Ottawa, Parliament Hill, and everywhere in this country, we have the right, the capacity, the knowledge, the assets, the intellect to be able to really be partakers and influencers in the story that's Canada. I often remind my black folks across the country, the leaders, that the challenge that we face in our black communities are not resolvable only inside our communities. They must show themselves in mainstream Canada. We need to be able to take to task our allies and governments and philanthropy and everywhere around the change that we want to see. So my hope is that the work that P2P is doing and many leaders like yourself are doing could start benefiting from what Canada is offering at the moment. You know, in Ontario, we have the Ontario Black Youth Action Plan. It's upwards of $100 million now in terms of investment. It's been going on for 6 years. Federally, there are different programs. I was so happy to see a young Ethiopian leader in Ottawa that approached Liban and I a few days ago at a government function. And you might have heard in the news that the Prime Minister has announced the extension of the UN Decade of People of African Descent to 2028. You know? So when you think about the possibilities of change that we have for us, they are ample. I encourage you to today to really, as you continue to support the organization, to think critically, as Zarak was thinking critically about what it takes for change to happen. Last year alone, the Ethiopian diaspora sent $6 billion to Ethiopia. Ethiopia has one of the largest demographically young people in the continent. You know, the orphans that this organization is supporting, it's amazing work. Ethiopia has today anywhere between 4.5 to 5 million orphans. The need is huge. The capacity for us to connect the dots and promote system leadership will open up for us possibilities to actually amplify our impact. One of the things that I'm really hopeful and encouraged in the last 2-3 years is to see the renewal of civic leadership here in the Ethiopian community. There are a number of organizations, some led by young people, some in the room, that have really renewed the hope and spirit and the capacity of the Ethiopian community. P2P and similar other organizations are the anchor of this transformation. And my organization and the organization out there are really humbled to be part of the story of renewal. We're there to learn and support the change that happened. Why? Because this community, these organizations are needed to transform Canada. In closing, I wanted to say, in the words of Johann van Gogh, that knowing is not enough. We must act. Willing is not enough. We must do. So let's go ahead and do the change together. Thank you for your time.